the Auburn Blitz Podcast, your direct source for all Auburn all the time with Brett Pritchard, Faith Richardson, and Randy Lee.
What's up, everybody, and good Tuesday morning to you, and welcome into another episode of the Auburn Blitz Podcast. We're so glad that you join us each and every day, whenever it is and wherever it is that you join us, and make Auburn Blitz part of your daily Auburn intake for your athletics, whatever it is that you're looking for athletics. We're going to cover it here. We don't just talk football, but we're going to talk a lot about football today because official visits begin this weekend. Really, they've already started for some schools, but for Auburn, the official visits begin this weekend, and there's a pretty good list of guys that are going to be coming in this Friday. And so we'll talk about some of the ones that we feel like here are key. We've been talking a lot about some of these guys, Randy, over the last month. But, you know, Jason was on yesterday, and we were talking about how crazy things are and how backed up everything is now. And you know, all these official visits starting in May, going into June, July, whereas it used to be, you know, all the way to January, then it was backed up to November, then it was, you know, now it's just changed. Everything's changed so much in the world of college. And so now they're getting these things in the summer. You're hoping to get some commitments from some of these guys along the way that you have a major impact on when they show up to your place. But then it's also a juggling act. You know, the guys that come in the first weekend versus the guys that come in at the very end. You know, it always has been the rule of thumb. You want the last visit, right? But you can't get everybody on campus at the last weekend or right before the season starts. So you got to take it and you got to impress when they get here. We'll go through some of these guys, but man, this is where we are now.
It is. And, you know, I've said this over the last couple of years that I really like the early signing period, though, because I think it sets a precedent that decisions need to be made and not veered from. Because, you know, let's bring up a couple of players. If you're Tank, a Sadarian Morgan or somebody like that, I mean, if you want to hold off until the very last second, you're going to be able to do that. But even if you're a marginal 3 to 4 star guy that's got a committable offer from Auburn and Alabama and you hold off, then that spot that you may be expecting was a legitimate offer is not one anymore. And we used to see a lot of flipping and things happening on the last day that maybe if you look at Gus Malzahn and see what a poor job that he did with offensive line recruiting, he's probably sitting around waiting to that very last second to see if the 5 or 6 guys that he was going after, that I'm sure if they string you along, they can make you feel like you're going to get a commitment from them. And then when they wouldn't work out, we wouldn't have a backup plan. And we end up in the position that we ended up in that position room. And I think that if you would have added 4 to 5 really good offensive linemen to all the rest of Gus Malzahn's class, Brett, he could have strung together more championships than he was able to
probably still be here right now.
So I agree. So, you know, that makes the early signing period really good for me. But, you know, the dynamic that pops into place now is that transfer portal and all that is intertwined with making a decision on whether you want to bring a 21-year-old in instead of an 18-year-old high school kid, and the dynamic between what Lane Kiffin's doing to build his Ole Miss squad compared to what Hugh Freeze is willing to do to build this Auburn squad, hopefully as much as he can out of high school players. Still crazy to think of how much of a difference it is from 20 years ago to today. I mean, these kids that are freshmen, you take Sadarian, wherever he goes, he's going to be there in December. And he's going to have 8 or 9 months to get prepared for a season. And whereas when you and I were coming through school, that kid may not have it, 3 weeks to get prepared to try to play that freshman campaign. Just completely different set of dynamics that are going on out there. And personally, I hate it that high school kids are missing half of their high school year, because a lot of these kids are multi-sport guys.
Right.
And you no longer have the chance, if it's not your number one sport that you're getting the scholarship for the most part, unless you're somebody like Malcolm that just wanted to hang around and do what he did in track and basketball, Brett, That's not the norm now. How many kids that signed last year end up early enrollees for Auburn? Do you have that number?
Well, I don't. Well, it was majority outside of about 3 guys.
Yeah,
I mean,
about
that just says,
80%,
yeah,
wasn't
it
it?
was, yeah, at least 80. And I think you bring up a good point. If you know football is where you're going and you've got all these offers, you're almost behind if you're not graduating early now. I mean, that, again, not to say that some kids can't do that. Some kids have to finish up and go the spring. You brought up Malcolm. Malcolm wanted to play basketball and he wanted to play. I mean, he wanted to run track. He wanted to finish track because he had so much riding on that as far as, records and things like that he was trying to set, and which he did. But if 100% you're going football, I mean, like you just brought up Sedarian, we already know he's leaving in December. He's not going to play basketball this year for Benjamin Russell. I hate it. I would have loved to seen him play one more year of basketball for Benjamin Russell, but that's not what he's going to school for. He's going to school to be a football player. And speaking of him, since you and I cover him, I'm going to see him every week during the football season, and we've been seeing him since he was in the 7th grade. He took his official visit to Colorado this past weekend, and I had the interview with him last week, and he kind of gave everybody an update on where he's going. So he'll be coming to Auburn in a few weeks. Actually, Auburn and Alabama have his last 2 official visits. So that's when you look at first impressions and how you set these things up. I mean, some people try to dive into this and try to see some strategy. Oh, are they saving these guys, this school for the last or whatever? I think, it's just availability a lot of times and where it lines up in their schedule and where they can go. But I do think it carries a lot of weight to get in on some of the last visits for some of these guys because it's fresh in their mind. I'm not saying that Colorado didn't have an impression on Sedarian. They clearly did. He had a great time. But in 5 weeks, Colorado's going to be in a distance, and Auburn and Alabama are going to be in the forefront of his mind. So, yeah, I mean, just natural human ability to – now, it didn't mean that Colorado's not going to continue to maintain contact. They will, but there is something to be said about how these things are done and when guys show up to your place.
Well, it's really the first recruit that I've watched get wined and dined over at Colorado. And I must say, watching what was being posted on social media was eye-opening. And I'm not saying that Auburn and Alabama, they don't do that.
They'll do the exact same thing when he shows up.
But, you bring 6 or 8 family members out to Colorado on a trip like that, Brett, when a lot of us we don't get trips like that from the state of Alabama. We don't have the opportunity to go out and to see what other places have to offer. So I was impressed. I'll say I'm sure they were too. But it looked like they had a great time. And my gosh, they've just got a marketing genius over there in Deion Sanders that he's got a commodity also at quarterback that he's selling. And you see any post that Sedarian's making, the first one he's tagging is that quarterback. That's already committed over there. So look, Brett, I know where your stomach turns on this. Yours is completely 110% towards Auburn getting that commitment, and I hope that they do too. But I will say that just off of what I saw, I think that they were blown away by Colorado. And if you told me that on July the 2nd he committed to Colorado, I wouldn't be surprised at all.
Well, I mean, would be surprised if he committed to any of the 5 that he's going to. I mean, we've talked about it.
I think I would honestly say them more than the other 2 SECs. I feel like Auburn or Alabama is going to get him if he stays in the SEC. I just think that our coaching staff has done an amazing job recruiting him. We've witnessed it firsthand. You can't recruit a kid any harder than Auburn's coaching staff's recruiting him. I mean, what else can Auburn do? They're going to probably put an NIL package together that's going to be equivalent to whatever other offer that he gets. And they've recruited him 30 miles from him. I mean, there's one thing you can give to living in Elliott City and on Lake Martin. You're going to see more Auburn coaches than any other neck of the woods.
And if you don't, there's something wrong. And there was about a year and a half where we didn't see any.
Well, that's Brian Harsin and the worst set
He's
of
the worst.
coaches.
He's
the
literally.
worst.
I know I hate to bring. I think me and you'll be bringing this up for 40. Lord
Well,
willing,
it's
we're here 40
amazing
more
that
years.
it was allowed to happen as long as it was. And the coup the coup that went down, I want every Auburn fan to remember this. The boosters that are the ones that are giving all of this money to be able to compete and do what we love to blast them. But the moment that we need something, we go with our hands out asking, and I say we as an Auburn fan base, asking Jimmy Rain and others to pony up and allow us to compete to a level that the opposition's doing. But, you know, the coup that happened that summer that everybody had this up in arms on, my gosh, poor old Brian Harsin and this staff just mistreated. And the coup was for a reason, because anyone with eyes and a brain knew that he wasn't working and was killing the program, and he about did. So I think we better, kind of pay attention to the way that went down, and the ones that, I bring up a few of them, and we just happen to know them and think a lot of them, but the few of them that are always asked for these money, they're not idiots. I mean, these aren't trust fund babies that have got all of this money. Most of them generated this money themselves. They're very, very smart people, business people, like, thank the Lord what we've got in Washington, D.C. right now. So when they speak and they say that something looks off and it doesn't feel right, doesn't mean they're always right, but I would be willing to bet a lot of times when you're dealing with people of that level, a lot of times they're right. And Auburn, we had a complete come apart, if you remember that summer, Brett. Everybody's so upset about the way that Brian Harsin and his poor little coaches were being treated, and then we got what we deserved, honestly, is what happened.
And then the truth came out.
Yes.
And then we all know. But look, you and I are on the road, and I never saw him. I never crossed paths. I want people to realize this. I have crossed paths with Hugh Freeze 1,000 times, it feels like. I have crossed paths with Gus Malzahn, Bruce Pearl. I never saw Brian Harsin. And when that article came out on AL.com, and I know we're going to move on from this. I hate to bring all this crap back up, but here's the deal. When that article came out, it was the truth. There was nothing fabricated, but the guy didn't work. I mean, you were in an SEC school and getting your ass handed to you because you sat in your office or you were going to watch your kid play on Friday night because he was playing backup quarterback at Auburn High School. You were sitting in the stands when everybody else was out visiting, top-ranked recruits. I mean, Auburn literally, like you and I, Jason told us this. I literally will never forget on our noon show, and we had Jason on one Friday, and I said, all right, Jason, where are you going tonight? And he said, well, just going to pick a place because we ain't got anybody we're looking at. I'm like, where are we? Are we in the Twilight Zone? Do you remember that conversation?
He said his actual words that he uses, nobody around us we're in on. So, most of the time he goes and visits on Friday night, not based off of who the best players are. If they're an Alabama potential commit, he's not just going to go watch them. He goes and watches potential guys that Auburn's in on. And we weren't in on anybody that was playing that particular Friday night. So he just going to pick him a high school football game to go out there and cover. It's terrible. Wild time.
Never thought you'd ever get to a point
like
that.
But the reason that was brought up is because we may miss on people. But you've got to be okay with that as long as you know you're working. It's like minding your business, Brett. We may miss on a potential advertiser and a potential eyeball to watch our content. But as long as we're working, as long as we're putting our best foot forward, you and I can live with that. And as an Auburn fan base, it's the exact same. Do we have our coaches constantly 35 miles up the road being seen? And does Alabama, on the opposite, I hear about Coach Shepard all the time. He's in Ellicott City all the time. I think he's doing an amazing job. Marcus Davis doing an unbelievable job recruiting. Those two guys, we're both very, very lucky here in the state of Alabama that we've got two of the best wide receiver coaches in the country. Unfortunately, we're having to compete against one another, but we're winning more battles than we were winning with Marcus Davis. So I'm going to thank the Lord for him. But
one of them needs to stay on out here.
Only thing you can ask for is to be in on the battle, and we are.
Yeah, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. I'll say this: one of them needs to stay on out of here. The other one's welcome. The other one can go. No, I'm just kidding. Not really, but I am, I guess, if I have to. Good morning, Faith. Welcome in. Got Randy for a little bit longer here. Official visits begin this weekend. Faith, I'm going to save some of this for you because there is a visitor coming in, Tank Jones, this weekend. That's pretty important. Your interview came out Friday with Tank, so we'll talk about that here in just a little bit. I do want to get Randy's take on a couple of other guys, and then we'll dive into some others. Vodney Cleveland is on the list to be here, and again, there's another top 10 guy from the state of Alabama. Was teammates with Jordan Crawford for that Parker High School team. I think very dynamic. Those two guys played with each other last year side by side. It's what made them such a formidable team on the defensive side. And, of course, you had Neem Alford as well. That team was just daggum loaded with unbelievable players. But just give your take on Vodney Cleveland, what you witnessed with him.
Well, you and I called the state championship game, and Jordan Crawford was in the backfield all night. I think he had 5 or 6 tackles for loss that night. We knew he was special, but, calling the color on that, your eyes kept going to the end, and the size that Parker not only had at the defensive tackle, but sitting out there on the edge. And a very athletic guy to be the size that he is, Brett. I didn't really, I'm not the one that follows recruiting anywhere near to the level that you and Luke do. So when we're calling some of these games, I'll get called up at times, especially if they're a sophomore and a junior, and I'm not watching the recruiting rankings like you are. And that was the way that game went that night. I was like, my gosh, I know Jordan Crawford. Thank the Lord we've got him. But who is this freak show out here at defensive end? And where is he from? And why do I not know him? And I knew him by the end of that night. And everybody that was associated with Parker knew him all season long, Brett. He's different than Jordan Crawford. Crawford is a little unorthodox. He's a DeMeco Ryans looking, a DeMarco McNeil looking.
Yeah.
DeMeco Ryans is kind of a smaller, thicker linebacker, but DeMarco McNeil was 6 foot, 6
Pretty
foot
good
four.
NFL coach too, by the way.
Yeah, 310 pounds. That's what Jordan Crawford, but what Cleveland reminds me of are the Spencer Johnson type players that we had under Tommy Tuberville. Maybe
Jay
coming
Ratliff.
in, yeah, just really big, versatile guys that can go end up down at defensive tackle, but also can be a very big defensive end. And so I couldn't say enough good things. I hope we end up with him.
Yeah, he's definitely one. And then another one that we'll talk about too is Landon Duckworth. Really it seems to be a 2-horse race at quarterback in this class for Travis Burgess from Grayson, Georgia, and then, of course, Landon Duckworth being the top-ranked quarterback in the state this year down at Jackson. I know Faith and I are going to be going to Jackson soon to catch up with 3 top 10 guys in the top. I mean, my God, 3 in the top 10 guys at Jackson. I feel sorry for everybody on their schedule. I mean, I really do. I'm just going to go ahead and throw that out there. I know I've said it before, but, I mean, who's beating this team? I mean, seriously.
Well, the only team that gave them a run for it last year was St. Michael's, and that's Gunnar Rivers, and
Right.
Phillip Rivers coaching them up and scoring enough to make it reasonable into the second half. I mean, I think Jackson ran away with it late in the football game, but you got to score with them because you're not going to stop them, not in that classification. You don't have the Bows and Joes to match that. They don't exist. Not in that.
They're going to be beating a lot. They could beat a lot of teams in 6A and 7A, man. I mean, I'm moving up. I know that sounds stupid. I'm not saying the Thompsons of the world. I'm saying some of the lower tier 7As. They could line up and beat them.
Oh, sure they could. But Landon Duckworth, he's a legitimate man. I mean, we saw this on the basketball court, Brett. He is all of 6'3", 6'4".
Yep. Very
well put together. You can understand why he's got a dynamic arm. Great arm talent just by looking at the size of, he's not overly athletic on the basketball court, but when you put him on the football field, which is the same way if you remember on Seth Williams back in the day. And I keep comparing the two of them because it's kind of funny how amazing an athlete you can be in one sport and a serviceable athlete in the other sport. Well, that's Landon Duckworth on a state championship back-to-back winning program there at Jackson High School. That's what he provides. But looks the part, hope we end up with him. You know, I'm still sitting on the side of, if I've got to decide between an out-of-state quarterback and an in-state quarterback, and there's not a major difference between the two of them, I hope we keep the in-state kid at home. And
Agree.
Landon Duckworth's the one that I would pick if I had to choose one in this class. Now, next year's class, I don't even know who you choose. I know we've already, I guess, put our toe in the water with Case and Myers, Brett, but there's another five or six on top of him.
Trent Seaborn.
Does he have a committable offer to Auburn too?
I want to say yes. I want to say he's already
got. We've got
one.
offers out to Myers and Seaborn for next year's class already in this state.
Right.
I mean,
well, it's in 2 years, isn't it? It'll be 2 years.
They're juniors this year. Yeah.
Well, are they sophomores or juniors?
They're juniors this year.
That's right.
They'll be juniors this year.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
so
we've already passed the last. Yeah, well, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
But they're in the same class, so it would be odd. I'm not saying we.
No, I don't know how to work, but
I know Myers has a committable offer to Auburn, and you and I've seen him. He's moving over to Auburn High School, but you and I've seen him at Pike Road since he was eighth grader starting over there at Pike Road.
Yeah.
So that's going to be an unbelievable class next year to cover here in the state. Faith, you're going to have a good time going around with quarterbacks. It's going to be one of the best quarterback classes we've ever produced here in the state of Alabama next year. But this year it's Landon Duckworth, and I hope Auburn gets him.
It's going to get to the point where when Faith starts showing up, everybody's like, "Oh, she's here. Yeah. I must be in the top 10."
Coaches, I hope we're going to start saying I'm doing something right when she's coming over here, or waiting for a call when I'm going over there is what I'm hoping is going to happen.
That's right. And it will.
Well, I've already gotten some text from some people saying, well, where are y'all going now? Who are y'all going to dinner? Like, this is what we wanted to do. And again, I'm sure we'll start a trend. You know, that's the way things happen. I'm sure somebody will go out and try to do what we're doing, but that's fine. But we're going to hit these top 10 according to 24/7, and we've already gotten a couple. And Faith and I are going to talk about 2 that we're going to go see today over at Booker T. Washington, and then we got another one coming up Wednesday. So very, very busy week. Randy, I know you got to get out, so appreciate you being on as always here on this Tuesday, and I'll let you end it.
Well, stop by and see us. One tomorrow night, we've got a great event going on. I want to make sure to hit on sponsors of ours, Pepper Tree Steaks and Wines with Outlive. Got a really nice setup going on there in Auburn. That's going to be a fundraiser for Outlive and the cancer initiative there. So Brett and I'll be there with our wives, and we hope a lot of you. I think there are still a few tickets left for that event. We've made some posts on our social media outlets. So Brett will continue to do that today, but yes. I highly recommend that you show up and support a great initiative there. But if you're over in the Auburn-Opelika market, we've got 2 great locations now to serve you with Lee Apparel and Sign Source. One's at 1850 Opelika Road. It's our new Lee Apparel and Sign Source office there. You can call us at 256-825-0197 to get quotes out. And then also at Sign Essentials, which is a building a little bit closer. It's in the Opelika. It's in the Opelika city limits, a little closer to the intersection going to Tiger Town, but it's off of Opelika Road. Sign Essentials adds a little bit to what we're offering on the sign side, from engraving to routing of signs to a very intricate knowledge of what goes on in school signage, especially there at Auburn University. So come by and see us at either of those locations, or call us 256-825-0197.
Appreciate it, buddy.
Thank y'all.
See you, man.
Bye, Randy.
All right, Faith, a lot to talk about here. While we're talking about some of our partners, as always, we'll start with Sensa Green.
Sensa Green, for air that's cool and clean, call on Sensa Green. They are the carrier dealers for the state of Alabama, proud supporter of Auburn athletics and proud supporter of the Auburn Blitz podcast. Guys, it is literally about to get so freaking hot, and so everybody's AC units are going to be broken. You've got to go ahead and get in there before everybody else is having the exact same problems.
Yeah, you don't want to get in line for that. That's for sure. So get to Sensa Green now. Scout Program Management, man, so appreciate them so much, and I witnessed their work firsthand. And what a great job. I've been part of 2 projects that they have been working on, one currently, one in the past. And, man, they hold people accountable. They're a construction management firm that takes you from the pre-planning stages all the way to the finished product. So if you're a school system or you're somebody out there with a major project and you need somebody to come in and handle it for you, Scout Program Management, that's what they do. Leave it to the experts. We talk about that all the time with our partners. Call them Sloan or Jay or Charles. They will take care of you, and they'll make your project priority, and that's what you want. Bunkers in Auburn.
I just had some really bad news yesterday about how Bunkers is closed on Monday and Tuesdays, and you think we would know.
How did we not know that?
I mean, you would think we would know, but considering the fact that we're probably always there on like a nice Thursday, Friday kind of deal. But
Right.
I'm very upset about it.
You were so excited about the steak sliders today, and you
Yeah,
can't get them. I'm sorry.
But it's going to be okay, because guess what? That just means we have to go back either tomorrow or on Thursday. But yeah, we love Bunkers. 27 different sports on the golf simulator base. So you don't just have to play golf. If you're like me and you get a little too frustrated because for some reason the ball keeps moving when I'm trying to swing at it. I don't know.
How do they not figure that out? I mean, doesn't everybody have that
Does
problem?
everybody else have that? Is that why Brendan Valdez is doing so well right now? Did he learn how to follow the ball?
And by the way, speaking of Bunkers, and an update, we'll just say brought to you by Bunkers. Auburn is at now 17 under.
Yep.
And UCLA is at 4 under. They are stretching their lead. They were at 14 under yesterday to finish the day. So now they're at 17 under. Day 2. You and I will be headed out there shortly. We'll be at the regional. So we're going to go check that out and give you some updates from the AU club. So excited about that. But that's brought to you by Bunkers. There you go, Bunkers. The unofficial regional update there from AU club as Auburn extends their lead over SMU. SMU's at 2 under, but UCLA's at 4 under. And then Purdue is at 1 under. Those are the only 4 schools in red numbers right now. Georgia Tech has completely fallen off. They were actually leading Auburn a little bit yesterday. That didn't last very long. And now Auburn fully in control. Tony
17 under.
I mean, they're just through 4 holes. So
they're just whooping tail.
Yeah, they're
Jackson is at 5 under now. Brendan is at 7 under. But I mean, and Carson Baca, we were talking about.
Yeah, he's moved up.
Where did he go? He's at 3 under now.
Yeah, I mean, and we knew this was, and then Caden Pope's at 1 under.
Yep.
So, Auburn really, Josiah is even, so he's right there. He's through 4 today. So, everybody getting it together, and, expect Auburn to continue to play well as the weather's going to be better today. Like Tony said, 90 degrees this weekend. It's too early for summer. Well, you know how it is in Alabama. You blink and you go from 40 to 95, and it's like there's no adjustment period.
But then sometimes you're back at 70. Sometimes you're back. But I think for real this time we're about to get hit.
Yeah, it's about. I mean, it's mid-May. It's coming, so everybody shouldn't be surprised. All right. So Tank Jones, we're talking about official visits and going down this list of guys that are coming in this weekend. I would be remiss now that you're on, Faith, if I didn't start with Tank Jones. He's a guy that, he's number 2 according to 24/7. He's number 1 in some of the other services as the in-state player. But regardless of where he's ranked, 1, 2, or indifferent, he is a guy that Auburn's had a priority on, obviously, for a long time back to last year. He showed up to the spring game, or whatever you want to call that went on. It was just a practice. It wasn't really a day, but you sat down with him. That interview came out Friday. If you have not watched that, that's your fault out there. I don't know what you've been doing. So you need to go watch that. I think I've watched it 3 times. And I'm there filming it, but then I get to see the finished product. And every time I watch it, I catch something else that he says. And, he is a soft.
I thought you were going to say catch something else about my editing skills. I was like, please don't. Please don't tell me.
I'm not critiquing your editing skills because they're way better than mine. Okay, so I have no
Oh,
room to critique there. You probably are critiquing my camera work more than anything, but
no, I think you do a great job.
yeah, the stands do a really good job of holding the cameras as long as I just put them in the right place. But Tank had a good visit down there with him and enjoyed that very much. And then, you know, it's going to be a battle. It's
It
going to be a
is.
battle. And
It is. There's a lot of people that are pursuing him right now, and he's um, kind of like what Sedarian said about how he's taking what the people that are really communicating with him very seriously. And
the ones that are communicating the most,
yes,
right?
he's taking that very seriously. And I think again, that's a really good thing. So he's got a lot to pick from.
Well, let me put you let me put you in his or Sedarian's shoes for a second. All right, Faith, you're a 5-star athlete. Of course, you go anywhere you want to go. Everybody wants you, but how do you decipher on? I mean, what are you putting into effect in your mind that really should count toward a place that you really consider going? To me, that's the first place you start. I mean, you're going to get offered whatever money wise and all that, and everybody's going to act like they want you and you're the priority. But
Right.
there's certain ways to set yourself apart if you're a college recruiter. And Sedarian point blank told us it's the guys that call him every day to work. I mean,
Right.
some guys don't want to be called every day. Let me put that. We hear that a lot. They're like, look, man, I
Leave
get
me
it.
alone. Okay, not like that, but
Right. Well, I mean, it gets to that point, but then you also want to be, somebody that shows that this is not just we're recruiting you because you're the top player in that state. We
right.
really genuinely like you and want you to be part of our program because you bring more than just the athletic ability and the ability to come out here and help our team win.
Right.
Relationships. I guess I could have just said that and summed it all up.
Yeah. I mean, if it were me and I was in that position, I mean, I think people can tell pretty confidently that I like communication and I like building relationships and stuff like that. And so for me, that's really important. I mean, literally so important. It's my job. And but I also think it kind of goes back to, we've said this a little bit in the past, but just kind of how you're raised and how the way you're brought up and what your morals and stuff are. And so I think with me, I always was told networking, building my relationships and stuff like that is always the most important thing. You always have one first impression and those kind of things. So I think the people that are taking the time out of their day to talk, pursue, those things they're some of the most important things that are going to get you to that next step. Or also not just about how much money you're getting, but where the coaching staff is going to lead you and how they're going to use you to make you better and make the team better so that you can move on to that next level. I wouldn't want to go just to say, oh, I can always transfer. That's
Right.
like going into a marriage
Right.
and being like, I can always get divorced.
Yeah,
Like,
that's not really what
Yeah.
you're supposed to do. So
and I think that's what's happening a lot in this college football era now of, oh, I can always transfer if something goes wrong.
yeah, you should be trying on the front end to say, no, this is where I want to be, and this is where I want to spend the next 2 or 3 years of my life, building whatever it is that I'm going to build. But yeah, you're right. I mean, to give a real world example of that, that's how you ended up with us at Auburn Blitz and R&B Media. It was through a network. I mean, and it's people that put you in contact with other people, then you meet, and then you have to do the selling at that point. On both sides, there has to be a relationship that's built over X number of months or years or whatever you do. And then you decide, hey, that's somebody that we want part of our organization. So then you extend the offer, and the offer is either accepted or, maybe not accepted, or somebody, and that's how you work it out. And then you work out the terms of the financials. But first, it's got to be a place that you want to be part of. That's got to be first and foremost the important thing. And then the people that are trying to get you there have got to want you there too. So once you get that bridge kind of built, then you worry about the details, and you can work all that stuff out. So that's a real world example, everybody, of how that thing works. And that's kind of how the recruiting works. But Tank Jones, we talked about Landon Duckworth, talked about Bodney Cleveland. There's going to be a lot of guys coming in. Some of the lists that I've seen: Trenton Henderson for Pensacola, another edge rusher. It just seems like Auburn is all over these edge guys. You've got Hezekiah Harris that's already committed. There's going to be another guy that we'll break. We'll go ahead and talk about this tomorrow. We'll be heading over to Wadley, Alabama, to talk to Jaquez Wilkes. That's another edge rusher. And he happens to be going on his official visit to Auburn on May the 30th. And guess who else will be there on May the 30th? Hezekiah Harris. So two big-time edge rushers there. You got Trenton Henderson in. You got Tank Jones. I mean, all these edge guys. And, I don't know. You want all of them. I mean, they're just so athletic and they're so good. I mean, you want them to be part, but those are guys. But we'll be going over to talk to Jaquez. Jason Caldwell with Auburn Undercover did a really good job. Had an article. If you haven't gone out to Auburn Undercover 24/7 and read his article, he caught up with Jaquez last week. A very good visit with him. I know you're excited about being able to sit down with him tomorrow. That's going to be a lot of fun. So, been trying to pursue him for a little while, and finally wrangled him in. Again, but going to be over at Booker T. Washington today. Marquez Daniel, a top 10. We're going to be talking to him. It seems like, and we've said this a million times, Florida and Auburn, it's down to with him, or at least the leaders there. So we'll talk to him about that. I know he's got a official visit coming up as well. So we'll see how that plays out. And I know you'll dive into that with him and kind of talk to him about, what his expectations are and what he's looking for at the next level. I think that's probably the coolest thing when we sit down with these kids is, what are they looking for when they show up to these schools? Everybody's going to wine and dine them or whatever. By the way, his official visit's on Friday, June 6th. So that's where Marquez Daniel will be in Auburn. But yeah, you got some pretty big interviews coming up in the next couple of days.
Yeah. Again, just kind of finding out. I feel like we always know, and you can say that you don't feel the same way, but I think you do, that when you first meet them, for just the way that they approach you, especially me, because I don't think half the time they think I'm going to be the one doing the interview, is how you can tell what kind of kid you're going to get in the interview and what kind of kid they are in general. And so far, I've been really blessed and really lucky to have had two of the best ones so far. They've been awesome. But yeah, just the way that they portray themselves. I feel like, again, especially to me, if they're going to be talking about all the cool money and all the stuff like that, it's just okay. But just knowing what they want to get out from each school that's pursuing them, what the most important thing is, that whatever coaches, whatever teammates that they're going to end up having, where they find the most success out of that team, coach, school, whatever. And I think that's probably one of the coolest things hearing so far, that it's been all really positive things.
Very, very positive. Speaking of positive things, some of our partners here on the program, Sure Shot right up 280, passed him yesterday. They've got all your firearm apparel and hunting needs. They sell and trade new and used firearms. Scott is awesome. He knows exactly what he's talking about, whether it's literally about any of those things I said or anything when it comes to safes, stuff like that. The
the handgun course that ladies and men that you need to be taking if you ever feel like you want to carry. Just call on them, 256-329-0080.
Definitely make sure you go up and check
And
out.
tell them that the Auburn Blitz sent you. And
Yes, 100%, 100%.
And Oliver Ross, your party from 20 people all the way up to 20,000 people. We say stick to the experts, and that's because you don't want to be walking around your own party with cocktail all down your outfit that you're supposed to be stunning on everybody with while it's your party, because you can't bartend like the professionals can. And just put the ego aside and let the professionals take over. Oliver Ross is going to, they're bringing certified and licensed bartenders where they can just take care of all the bartending things in the serving while you get to deal with the entertainment.
And that's what you're supposed to do when you're hosting parties. So
Exactly.
again, another expert, let them do it. So again, going back to this, and you can go on and encourage people to go to 24/7, and they're going to update. I talked to Jason this morning. He's going to put out his list at some point in time this morning, because this thing updates. You know, most guys go ahead and have their official visits set, and so they can plan. And I know we talked with Sedarian, and he's got all of his. I had the interview with him last week that we pushed out on our social media, and a lot of people watched that. And again, talked about why he set the date that he set and what it meant. But you know, Auburn and Alabama will get those last 2 visits from him, and then he'll have a couple of weeks to kind of process, you know, everything, sit down with his family, and then again. But these are 2 guys. Here's something I want to end with this morning, Faith. When you look at the top 10 in the state, you know, just not a lot of guys at this point really have pulled the trigger. And I know there's a lot of people, you know, waiting to see, and they want to take their OVs before. But, you know, I guess from a momentum standpoint, it's what I'm looking at. And who does Auburn have momentum with? Again, Vodney Cleveland's coming in. Landon Duckworth. Is Landon Duckworth the priority here in this class? You know, right now it's if you look on 24/7, it's Ole Miss and South Carolina. You know, can Auburn dive in and make headway there? You know, I think Sedarian's projections on there are maybe a little antiquated. I think they've got him more of a lean to Auburn, Alabama. I hate to break everybody's heart. I don't feel that way right now. I'm around him a lot. He hasn't indicated one way or the other, so this is not him. But it's just, and again, Coach Davis and Coach Nix were there last week, the first day of practice, visiting with him, and stayed here and talked to him. But then you and I were down in Mobile with Anthony Jones or Tank Jones. And, you know, I think you and I kind of don't feel like maybe Auburn is the top dog there either. So that's the top 2 players in the state. It doesn't matter which recruiting service you look at. Then so you slide on down to Landon Duckworth and Vodney Cleveland. Vodney, this is going to be a big visit for Auburn. Got teammate Jordan Crawford on the team. I think that's a big deal. And then you go down to number 5, and Zion Gibson's the cornerback from Gadsden City. He's committed to Alabama. And then you could bring in Jacquez Wilkes, who we'll see tomorrow, the number 6 player. He really hadn't indicated. Then Xavier Crowell at Jackson. We'll be getting down there to talk to him and Landon and Kean Chapman. But those guys have not indicated. And you got Hezekiah Harris, who's committed at number 8. But Marquez Daniel, who you'll see today, is at number 9. He hasn't committed. And I know that, but the deal is, do you feel like a lot of these guys are just waiting to kind of see? And I think some of them will go ahead and make decisions here in the next couple of months. But I think a lot of them, because Auburn dominated the state so much last year, they're waiting to see some results this year, Faith. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, I think they're waiting to see some results, but also I think these official visits are some of the most important times for them to really just kind of see, and especially go and see who else is there. taking their official visits and those kind of things. So I think that's one of the most important parts too. But yeah, just we've got to show people that we can win. Like if Auburn can't do that, then why would people want to come here?
And so you're not going to be able to do that till the season starts. You're going to have some guys that are going to go ahead and commit. They're already setting dates, like Sedarian, July 2nd. If he were to commit somewhere else, I'm just throwing this out there, that doesn't mean he signed with whoever if he commits to Auburn, doesn't mean he signed with Auburn. It means, that's another thing. If you get the commitment of him or Tank Jones or somebody going into the season and you, like you said, lay a bunch of eggs early and it starts putting doubt, then, maybe they decommit or they back off and whatever. And then on the flip side, if you get a commitment and you just come out of the gate, guns a-blazing and you're 6-1 in your first 7 games, now everybody's like, all right, they've turned the corner. Here we go. And so there's a lot that's going to play into that. So I don't think people need, and I think Auburn people understand that we are able to flip people late and we're able to get a lot of guys late. So don't get discouraged if somebody doesn't commit or chooses another school. You're going to have time to prove yourself in the fall. But you better win some football games, because I can tell you what you're not going to do. If you get off to a bad start, you ain't flipping anybody. You're not changing anybody's mind. And if anything, you're probably going to push some away that you thought you had an in with. So I think that's important. I think, again, you look at last year's class and you see how Auburn just dominated the top 15 in state.
It's not going to be that way this year.
It's not. Alabama's putting a lot of pressure, and Kalen DeBoer's got a lot of pressure to not do what he did this past year and pretty much lay a complete egg when it came to getting anybody in state that was a top-ranked recruit. So all of these guys, they've already got Zion Gibson. They're going to put a lot of pressure on Vodney Cleveland, Tank Jones, Sedarian. Those guys are going to be priority guys. Xavier Cruel, those are going to be priority guys for them as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So going to be interesting to see. All right, a couple more partners here on the program. Faith.
Old Number One Customs. Again, don't DIY it yourself. Just go ahead and have the professionals do it. So stick with Old Number One Customs if you want to get your kitchen, your bathroom, any renovation. They're going to be in and out of there in 2 weeks. 2 weeks. That's nothing.
What can you get done in 2 weeks? Not much. They can, though.
They can. Not you. Don't let your wife be disappointed.
334-752-6162 and then go check them out online. Go look at their Facebook and their Instagram page. Look at the work they're doing. My God, it's awesome. And you got to go, man, they did that in 2 weeks. It's crazy.
But an easier number for you to remember is 844-JFA Blue. And they are going to be able to take care of your water filter, of any single faucet, any water coming out of them in your entire house. It's going to be filtered water with their Home Atlas water filter duo. And so that's going to make sure that all of your water is going to be filtered, purified. You don't have to have any sort of disgusting, I don't even know what that stuff is that comes out when your water isn't completely clear. It's I don't know.
Anybody taking a big drink of some brown water? I'm not.
Disgusting. Like go to Michigan for that. I don't know. But call in JFA Blue Plumbing. They're going to be able to take care of y'all.
I'm sure they appreciate that up in Michigan. But anyway, okay, so that kind of wraps things up for us here on this Tuesday. It's not Monday anymore. It's Tuesday.
Wow.
Yeah, no kidding. An update on the golf. Auburn is at 16 under now, so they dropped the stroke. But nobody's gaining. UCLA's at 4, SMU's at 2, and Texas A&M is 1. Obviously, the course is playing really, really hard. And to only have 4 teams in red numbers, and 3 of those are barely in red numbers. Auburn is way out front at 16 under, and hopefully they will be able to hold that. And
we've got 1, 2, 3 right now.
How about that?
with Brendan at 7 under, Jackson 5 under, Carson at 4 under. So
Wow.
Carson's gone up 7 spots.
He is really, really playing well right now. He is, I mean, again, like you said, he's jumped up 7, and you've got Caden down at 20 at even. So again, Auburn really, really, really playing well, and it was to be expected. It's at their home course, but the course is playing difficult, and but it's not playing difficult for Auburn, and so hopefully they can extend that lead on out and get ready to finish this thing off tomorrow. I know that was the priority for this team, is not just to finish in the top 5, but to win it. They want to win this region with it being at home. So,
of course.
All right, so very busy day for us. We're about to hit the road, and again, be watching for all of this. We've got some more of our top 10 in the state interviews coming up with Marquez Daniel and Jacquez Wilkes this week. So excited for that. And again, Andy and Randy will be on at lunch today, so make sure you tune them in at noon. They'll have a completely different take on everything than what we've had this morning, so make sure you tune that in. They'll go over a lot more stuff, and you can also interact with them as well. So go out and be good to people today. Have smiles on your face. Have the
best day ever.
Always, and a big old
War Eagle.